kingdom of Hornest, a few minutes before our heroes entered the Beetle Palace. Lord Caesar was resting in his chamber when Queen Hornetta entered the room. "My lord, you have called me." The queen bowed while talking to her husband, whom she had hated. "Yes, my queen, come," Caesar ordered, and Hornetta listened, as she knew it was the only thing she could do. "I bet you've heard about the battlefield situation, dear," Caesar exclaimed, and Hornetta stopped breathing for a few moments. "So, he knows about my spies," she thought to herself before replying. "Yes, about the ants and Ozara's blades." Precisely. Caesar, unlike Hornetta's expectations, did not seem to be angry. In fact, quite the opposite. He seemed to be impressed by Hornetta's spies, whom he knew existed but did not know who they were or how skilled they were. Well, at least until now. "Your spies are quite skillful in their field," Caesar told his wife, yet the latter did not move nor speak. "Alas, I have requested your presence here for one thing, your highnessness. I need your help to resolve this case." "And how may I assist you in this matter, my lord?" Hornetta was intrigued. "You may not, but your assassins may do. Summon them and tell them to see me, now," Caesar said coldly. "Yes, my lord." Hornetta turned around to go summon her 11 assassins, but just as she was about to exit Caesar's chamber, her husband stopped her. "Wait!" She froze in place and awaited for whatever Caesar had in mind for her. She was powerless, and she knew that. And the next thing Caesar said did nothing but confirm that very fact. "We've been married for a few seasons already, and you have been very loyal. So loyal, in fact, that even though it is your duty to do so, you have not laid a single egg since our marriage." Hornetta started sweating. It is because you told me to wait, to save my energy, for when the time is right." "Yes, I did order you to do so, and I think the time has come. The citizens of our kingdom will get suspicious of their queen if she doesn't make up for not laying any eggs for a few seasons, so after I send your assassins on their mission, you know what to do." "I curse you, Caesar. You did this on purpose, you bastard, didn't you? You knew about my plans all along. Curse you. You have me right here where you want me, entrapped in your castle, laying eggs for you, unable to do anything, unable to resist, to rebel. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." "I understand, my lord." The queen left Caesar's chamber with teary eyes. She knew that she had lost this battle, yet she still held a hope that someday someone will end Caesar, end him once and for all. The Beetle Palace, Beetlefield. The Beetle Palace was a large structure in the shape of a stuck beetle. The palace went through numerous renovations throughout its life, as, unlike its king, the palace did not withstand aging. Our three heroes arrived to the front of the palace, which, contrary to their expectations, was unguarded. In fact, it was not only unguarded, but it seemed empty, abandoned even. There was not a single soul near the palace. Why aren't there any guards?" Antonio was worried. I have to admit that this is quite unusual." Hercules was confused. "And I thought the Atlantia Palace had little guards," Nathan joked, yet nobody laughed. He felt a little embarrassed. "So, shall we go inside?" Antonio wondered. "I think so, yes," Hercules said with uncertainty. It's been a few seasons since he last went near the Beetle Palace, and it's never been like this. There were always at least a couple of longhorn beetle guards scattered around the place. Hercules went first. Nathan and Antonio followed in silence. The hall was empty and dusty, so the three decided to go ahead, as it did not seem like anyone has even entered this place in quite some time. This looks abandoned. Nathan was confused. What happened to this place? Antonio whispered. I think we'll find out soon, Hercules said as he pushed the big heavy doors that led to the King's Staggeron's chamber. Who's there? A deep, old yet powerful and shivering voice echoed throughout the entire palace as soon as the three stepped inside the old dusty chamber. And there he was, sitting on his gigantic throne, the enormous eternal stag beetle, the uniter of 1,000 species, the king of all beetles, King Staggeron the Great. Your Highness, Hercules bowed to the eternal beetle. The two ants followed and bowed with respect towards the legendary bug that was sitting in front of them. Neither Nathan nor Antonio could believe that this was happening. They could not believe that the two of them, who were just normal ants doing their job until yesterday, were now worthy of being in the very same room with none other than Staggeron the Great. The eternal beetle was sitting in his Castanean wooden throne that, at least according to the legends, was as old as the king himself. He was wearing a crown in the shape of a hollow shell of a beetle knight, and he was holding a Castanean scepter, a precious gift he had personally received from none other than Master King Dabir himself. Staggeron was not seen often outside, especially in the last few seasons, as everything started falling apart. But whenever he was, he would always carry the precious scepter everywhere. There are multiple stories of the king imprisoning or killing anyone who even dared as much as touch his scepter. Those stories were well known throughout all of Castana for dozens of seasons, and now Hercules has seen it for himself that Staggeron was holding the scepter, even when he was resting at his throne. He believed all of them. He did not dare even look at the scepter, let alone touch it. You may raise your heads, Staggeron's powerful voice ordered, and the three listened. Now, I would like to know who I'm speaking with. The same voice echoed throughout the shallow walls. My name is Hercules, your Highness. I have brought two very brave travelers from afar, Antonio and Nathan the Sturdy, from the Anthill Kingdom. They wish to speak with you regarding the mission they are on, Hercules nervously said, with both fear and respect. I see. The old king seemed to think for a few moments, gazing upwards before saying, Nathan, the Sturdy. If I am not mistaken, that is a familiar name. Perhaps a famous warrior. He looked down at Antonio, then at Nathan, whom he kept his gaze on before continuing. I suppose that's you. Elderanta's personal guard, perhaps. Correct me if I'm mistaken. You are right, your Highness, Nathan stuttered. Yes, if I recall, the showdown that had Lucana as the victor. You are the last ant to ever participate in the showdown. To what do I owe the honor of your visit, Nathan the Sturdy? The king asked in a calm tone. Nathan, who was too shocked to immediately answer, started sweating. He was stunned because the king had heard about him. He knew that a lot of bugs, especially warriors and soldiers, have heard about him because he was the very last ant who participated in the showdown. But never had he expected that even the king of all beetles knew about him. The pause made King add, It looks like my words have surprised you. Don't be. I used to be a warrior myself, ages ago. So I enjoy learning about other warriors, especially from other parts of this fallen kingdom. Besides, the showdown is held in my very own domain. As the king of Battlefield, I should know everything that goes on around here, especially an event such as the Ultimate Showdown. He finally spoke. Yes, I apologize, Your Highness. I came here with my friend Antonio to seek your guidance. We were sent here on Eldorante's behalf, on a mission to find the five great knights, on a mission to find a way to save the Castanean kingdom from the approaching doomsday. Staggeron's eyes widened, and he leaned forward. Silence followed for a minute or two, and the king's visitor felt disturbed. Finally, the king spoke. To find the five great knights. Staggeron leaned back and looked up again. We've hoped that you would maybe know something, as 3 out of the 5 great knights were from Battlefield. Lucana the Sharp, Diablo the Heavy, and Dan the Mighty. Any info would help us plan our next move, our next trip. Please, Your Highness, for the future of Castania, for the future of your Battlefield. Staggeron did not move for a few moments, nor did he make any facial expressions. Nobody could read what was on his mind, so the free visitor waited patiently. Would you please follow this old beetle? I want to show you something, dear guests. Staggeron slowly got up from his throne, leaning on his scepter. Antonio looked at his friends. They were just as confused as he was. The king slowly made his way towards the giant doors that led to the empty halls of the palace. I have to show you something. Please, follow me. The elder bug exited his chamber, and the three followed without much hesitation. The 4 bugs moved at a slow pace, mostly due to the king's somewhat hesitant movements. Just as they were about to exit the palace, the king spoke again. I apologize for my rudeness. This is not the right way to treat guests from afar, especially in dire times like this. The 4 exited the palace, and Staggeron continued. As you can see, this kingdom is falling apart, and I do not mean just Battlefield or Anthill. I mean the entire Castanean kingdom. People have lost all hope, and the knights seem to be gone. The 4 were now headed to the tunnel that was all too familiar to Hercules, who looked quite disturbed when he realized where the king was taking them. Why are we? He started, but Staggeron raised one of his legs, signifying that he wanted silence. Hercules unwillingly listened. Antonio didn't think much of it, but Nathan noticed that Hercules was shaken by something. I've been alive for a long time, Staggeron broke the silence. And never in my life have I seen Castana fall this low. The kingdom had never been in such a direful situation. Even when bugs were hopeless, the great knights were always there to save them, always there to fight. I remember every single knight that had ever lived. They were all brave, honest, and strong. Many have died fighting Gozaras over the many seasons, but they never gave up. This generation of great knights are very similar. They too are brave and strong, but there is one thing they lack. Or should I say lacked? Staggeron paused his speech, and the 3 bugs who were carefully listening got worried more and more each passing second. Antonio wanted to ask, what did he mean by saying the verbs in the past tense? Nathan wanted to ask where they were headed. Hercules wanted to ask why they were headed there. They had so many questions, yet they persisted. They kept silent. They kept silent as they knew that all of their questions were about to be answered very soon. I'm sure you are wondering where are we headed. Well, You ants, at least, as I'm sure the Hercules beetle knows this tunnel. Oh, so very well. Well, we are headed towards the Beetlefield graveyard. I need to show you something there. No, Antonio let out a quiet, sorrowful voice. The other two looked at each other in disappointment and sadness. The four bugs approached the graveyard closer and closer. The one thing that the current generation of great knights lacked is unity. Yes, they may have fought and killed Ozara one time by working together, but they were never truly united, like their predecessors before them. The four have entered the graveyard, and this lack of unity is precisely what led to, well, the situation Castana has itself in right now. Staggeron led the others throughout the graveyard, down to a lonely tomb near the very end of it. I will ask the Hercules beetle to carefully open this tomb. Hercules listened to the king and did what he was asked to do. In the tomb lied none other than the hollow shell of Diablo the Heavy, one of the 5 great knights. No! Antonio let out a terrified cry as soon as he saw the dead ironclad beetle. He fell on his back and crawled backwards, shivering. All of his hopes were crumbling down before his eyes, and yet he did not want to believe it. He did not want to accept the horrifying truth. He did not want to accept that his hopes that all of the knights were alive and well are nothing but mere vacant, futile dreams of a childish ant who was not ready for the cruel reality that was being presented to him in this dark, desolated tomb. No. Antonio's traumatized eyes could not let out the tears he so desperately wanted to feel. He just sat there on the cold, dusty ground, shaking uncontrollably. Nathan grabbed Antonio by his top legs and yelled, "Calm down, Antonio, for Atlantia's sake!" Hercules quickly pulled his friend away from Antonio and said, "Leave him. You're just making it worse." Nathan, who realized he had acted too harshly, listened to Hercules and moved away from Antonio. He was once again reminded that Antonio was a completely different ant from him. Antonio was never trained how to handle these type of situations, while Nathan was. "Damn it," he whispered to himself, making a painful expression despite wanting to sustain the disappointment and despair he felt. No. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't. Antonio kept mumbling and shaking. Hercules, not knowing how to react or handle the situation in front of him, just closed his eye and waited. And Staggeron was just standing there, watching, observing. After what seemed like an eternity, Staggeron's deep, shivering voice could once again be heard. "This is exactly why I was hesitant to show you the truth. And the truth, the harsh reality is that Diablo, the Heavy, is dead. The truth is that Moteas, the Shiny, is dead. The truth is that the great knights have fallen. They have been falling apart ever since they killed Ozara the last time. And it all culminated about 9 or 10 seasons ago. That's when Diablo and Moteas were murdered. That's when the final hope that Castana ever had faded away, disappeared, vanished. That is when I, the king of Beetlefield, gave up on my own kingdom, on my own citizens." No, Moteas, too? Antonio's soul was in anguish as the realization hit him. What about the rest? Nathan's pale, emotionless face questioned the eternal king. What about Dan, Caesar, Lucana? Hercules kept his eyes shut, and a tear dropped as the tiny hope Nathan and Antonio had given him was slowly banished by Staggeron's cruel words. Staggeron did not answer immediately. He wanted to see if Even after finding out that half of the knights were gone, the three visitors would still have some hope left. He wanted to see if they, like many others who knew this truth, would give up all hope, give up on living. The rest, what about the rest? Nathan was becoming impatient. They desperately wanted to hear that at least one, at least a single knight was still out there, alive. They desperately wanted to hear that at least some hope is left. The rest, Staggeron spoke after a few moments of sorrowful silence. After you've calmed down, I need you to once again follow this old selfish king. Staggeron turned around and slowly started walking away from the tomb. Answer me! Nathan screamed in vain. All answers will come soon, child. But for that to be, you need to meet someone who will tell you everything, the old tired king said. Hearing this, Hercules finally opened his eye and looked at the king. Nathan, whose patience had run out, furiously asked, Who? The king stopped and slowly said, He goes these days by many names, most famous of which is the Crippled Knight. But you may know him by a name he used to wear many seasons ago. I want you to meet with Den the Mighty. Antonio, whose soul was shattered into 1,000 pieces just a few painful minutes ago, lifted his eyes up towards the eternal beetle, and a tiny spark of hope started burning again in his broken heart.